happened. Lan and I's mother was also very angry when she heard about it. She scolded Lan and I for not knowing how to cherish the good life, and for clinging to that poor man. After Junhee left, Lan and I's mother was even more furious. Her father also blamed Lan and I for what she had done. The next day, Lan and I's mother went to find Junhee to apologize for her daughter. She promised Junhee that she would strictly supervise her daughter in the future, and would never let her meet Jiho again. Although Junhee appeared to be troubled on the surface after hearing this, his heart was already overjoyed. Junhee understood that Lan and I's parents were even more anxious than he was. Later, when her mother returned home, she found Lan and I's divorce papers, and urged her daughter to hurry and take them to the Civil Affairs Bureau. However, the moment Lan and I handed over the divorce papers, she immediately regretted it, so she grabbed the application form and left. Then Lan and I summoned up the courage to call Jiho, but Jiho saw it and hung up on her. At that time, Jiho was preparing to pack his things to take up a position abroad. While sorting things out, he accidentally found the divorce papers between him and Lan and I, and, recalling that Lan and I had slapped him yesterday, the disheartened Jiho hurriedly took the papers and rushed to the Civil Affairs Bureau, where he handed the agreement to the staff without hesitation. This scene happened to be seen by Lan and I, who had just left the house. The misunderstanding between the two deepened. Lan and I then tore up the agreement without hesitation and decided to go find her ex-husband to get back married. That night, she took the initiative to meet her ex-husband alone, and confessed to him that she had completely said goodbye to the past. She asked her ex-husband to forgive her and promised to go through with the wedding as scheduled. The next day, when Jiho and the shareholders were about to say goodbye, they unexpectedly met Junhee. Junhee enthusiastically came up to them and greeted the shareholders. After exchanging pleasantries for a long time, Junhee left contentedly. Then Jiho learned a shocking piece of news from the shareholders. It turned out that Junhee had just been released from prison, and was now preparing to get back into the business and make a big splash. In a hurry, Jiho hurriedly made an appointment to meet Lan and I's father, and told him everything he had learned. However, he didn't expect that his father-in-law already knew about it, and deliberately kept it from Lan and I. Jiho saw that his father-in-law was so stubborn, so he hurriedly called Lan and I to meet up with her. But Lan and I was trying on wedding dresses, and Junhee was by her side. So Lan and I resolutely rejected Jiho's request, and warned Jiho not to contact her again. Unexpectedly, the next day Lan and I's mother met Junhee outside the police station. Junhee saw this and quickly lied that the police chief was his friend, and he had come here today to chat with him. An unaware mother was very pleased about this. After returning home, she did not forget to mention this to her husband, complimenting Junhee on how powerful his social circle is. Even the police chief is an old acquaintance of his. This made her father suddenly remember what Jiho said yesterday. The person who was defrauded by Junhee is now preparing to report him. There are also many people who want to take revenge on him. Lan and I's father then realized the seriousness of the situation, so he quickly called Junhee into his room to give him a lecture. Junhee also firmly promised that he would not go astray again, so that Lan and I's father could rest assured and let him take care of his daughter. Unexpectedly, the entire conversation was heard by his mother outside the door. She then rushed into the room and questioned Junhee. No matter how greedy she was, she absolutely would not allow her daughter to marry a man who had committed a crime. That night, her mother looked at her sleeping daughter with concern. She thought to herself, "Why is my daughter's life so miserable?" She had married 3 times but had never met a good man. Unable to sleep, she dragged her old man out for a drink. After weighing the pros and cons, they decided to continue to hide the truth. Although Junhee had committed a crime, her mother thought it was better than Jiho living in a rented room. At least Junhee could provide for her daughter's daily needs in the future. Her mother thought that marrying Junhee was the best choice for her daughter. So the next day, the two of them asked Junhee out again, to warn him not to commit any more crimes after they got married, and demanded that he quickly transfer the property in his name to his daughter's name. Junhee readily agreed to their demands after hearing this. Lan and I looked at the few pieces of jewelry her ex-husband had sent her. Then she took out the wedding ring Jiho had given her. At this point, Lan and I felt that she should also say goodbye to the past, so she went to the river and threw the ring into the river. Unexpectedly, on the way back, she met Jiho with his hand luggage. It turned out that Jiho was going to go abroad for work soon. At this time, he wanted to shake Lan and I's hand to say goodbye. However, the moment Lan and I extended her hand, her wedding ring on her hand broke off completely, Jiho's only glimmer of hope. Finally, the two exchanged blessings with each other before leaving. Soon came the day of Lan and I's wedding. Just as her ex-husband appeared at the wedding site in high spirits, unexpectedly, several plainclothes policemen had been waiting here for a long time. Junhee was arrested by the police at the hotel entrance. The whole family waited at the wedding for a long time, but they never saw the groom's figure. Lan and I's father, who was anxious, called Junhee, but he got the news that his son-in-law had been arrested. Lan and I's father's legs were weak at this time and he almost fell to the ground. However, Lan and I was also impatient at this time. Just as she asked her younger sister to go outside to check the situation, she found her parents rushing in. They told her that Junhee was about to go to jail. Lan and I immediately took a taxi to the police station. After meeting with him, She slapped Junhee hard. She never thought that what happened 3 years ago would happen to her again. This shameless man had completely made Lan and I a laughingstock. She was so sad that she felt like crying. After she walked out of the police station, she angrily ripped off her wedding dress. Lan and I questioned her parents. Is this what you want to see? And left without looking back. Jiana, who was sitting in the taxi, happened to see Lan and I as she was about to rush to the airport with her father. In order to reunite her father and Lan and I, Jiana pretended to have severe abdominal pain as soon as she boarded the plane. Jiho had no choice but to take his daughter off the plane and rush to the hospital. As a result, his plan to go abroad was delayed once again. Meanwhile, Lan and I also packed her luggage and left her parents' house with her son. She arrived in an unfamiliar city and was ready to start a new life. In order to solve the basic accommodation problems for herself and her son first, Lan and I decided to sell the jewelry her ex-husband gave her. But the result was even more eye-opening. Unexpectedly, the things her ex-husband gave her when they got married were all fake. Although Lan and I was very disappointed, life still had to go on. So with the help of an intermediary, she finally found a house to live in temporarily without paying any deposit. At this time, Lan and I's parents could not contact Lan and I and were extremely worried. In the end, the old couple had to go out into the street and post a missing persons notice. Jiho, on the other hand, made a lot of effort and the company's profits soared. The shareholders then unanimously agreed to let him take charge of the company again, and returned all the assets that Jiho had previously taken out to him. Finally, Jiho finally moved back into the villa with his daughters. After returning to the familiar environment, his longing for Lan and I became even stronger. Lan and I's figure filled every corner of the room. The next day, Jiana accidentally found Lan and I's missing persons notice. She hurriedly told her father the news. Jiho then learned that Lan and I had already left home with Tom, so he hurried to Lan and I's house to inquire about the situation. Lan and I's mother had lost her former arrogance. At this time, she took Jiho's hand and implored him to help find her daughter. Jiho finally agreed with them. He would definitely find Lan and I. Without any savings, Lan and I had to sell sushi for a living. The mother and son could only sell the leftover sushi to feed themselves every day. In this way, Tom, who had no appetite, learned to steal his classmates' snacks at school. When Lan and I learned about this, she angrily took a bamboo stick and whipped her son's calves. Tom cried and wanted to go find his grandfather. Lan and I felt very self-blame in her heart. It was all her own inability that made her son suffer every day. After paying the rent with the money on her body, she could only solve the basic problem of food and clothing. There was simply no money left for her son to improve his diet. In order to prevent her son from continuing to suffer the same way as she did, Lan and I started to get up early every morning and work hard. She got up early in the morning to make sushi and sell it on the flyover. After selling it, she went to the market and got a job selling seafood. At this time, Jiho also spent a lot of money to hire private detectives, hoping that they could find Lan and I's whereabouts as soon as possible. The father hung a picture of his daughter on the street and looked for her every day. He also recorded a video and uploaded it to the internet. Despite this, they still haven't found any news about their daughter. After returning home, the old couple constantly quarrel about this. They blame each other for their previous mistakes. The father, full of remorse, hides in his room and cries.